evening. Welcome to the May 1st Mount Vernon City School District Board Meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How are you, Dr. Nee?
You fix this when you get a chance.
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Williams. Trustee Russo.
Present.
Trustee Torres.
Present.
Trustee Zamore. Trustee McOwen.
Present.
Trustee Nying.
Present.
Trustee Jaros.
Here.
Trustee White.
Present.
Trustee Saunders.
Here.
Quorum is present. Oh, I didn't touch you, I'm sorry.
Good.
Applications.
Next on the agenda, please, communications from the public.
Good evening. The Mount Vernon City School District recognizes, The Mount Vernon City School District Board of Education recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting subject to the terms of board policy. Speakers must register in advance no later than 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting by contacting myself, the district clerk, in person here at the district office, 165 North Columbus Avenue, by phone at 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormick@mtvernoncsd.org. The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Such complaints must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to 1 additional minute to be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and/or the superintendent or other staff member at his or her discretion may respond to the speaker's remarks at the conclusion of public comment. Our first speaker this evening is Norman Hauptman. Our next speaker this evening is Karine D'Amato.
Hi, my name is Karine D'Amato. I'm a reading specialist at Hamilton Elementary School, vice president of the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers. Pleasure to address you all again tonight. I think I'm going to get used to this and do this as often as I can, as a matter of fact. You're good listeners. I stood before you at the last board meeting to vow our support of the school budget that was approved by this wonderful Board of Education. And I do want you to know that the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers will be supporting this budget and walking the walk behind it and making sure that this budget passes. We believe that this is a very much a reasonable and fiscally responsible budget. A 0.89% tax increase after 4 years of a zero certainly is not asking too much, considering my colleagues in other districts have risen above the cap. My colleagues in other districts, therefore, are going to have to face a supermajority to override that cap. So I truly believe that you have made a decision that also makes it easy for us to speak among our community and speak among the employees of this district and make sure that you have our full support. You know, you had 4 years of zero, and the year in 2016, March, when the bond proposal was sent before the voters. I must tell you, I'm a lobbyist in Albany as well for New York State United Teachers, and I watch votes very closely, and I've been in this district for a lot of years. 35 to be exact. And I will tell you that when the bond passed overwhelmingly the way it did, you gained the confidence of a community that truly needed to feel that they could stand behind you. And I think you've done a wonderful job right through in trying to make a vision that may have been spoken about prior, but truly never materialized. And this vision, not only you may believe in it, but many of us also believe in this vision for our students. I taught at Pennington. I was there the year they expanded to 7th grade. We could have been successful with that pilot if we had the support, all the support that we needed. And I do believe that our parents, there was a mass exodus at that time of students leaving the district. I was a 6th grade teacher. I would say that a good 70% of my kids at Pennington were going to outside districts. That's when they were allowed to go into Bronxville without having to take out a second mortgage. So I will tell you that it was not going to allow our school system to get any stronger. And I think that this budget will definitely put us in the right direction. So I wholeheartedly support it. I know that you are going to be expanding the pre-K. We heard from the reverends at the last meeting, and I will tell you that not only are they passionate about our early intervention of students and getting those kids ready so they can be successful later on, we have some of the best pre-K teachers in this district who are dedicated, and I will tell you, I could not do what they do. So tonight, when I am done speaking, we have Christine Seglio coming and telling you what she experiences with her students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Seglio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Seglio. I am a pre-K teacher over at Graham School. I've been a pre-K teacher in Mount Vernon for the past 30 years, and my first job in Mount Vernon was teaching the first pre-K special needs class, which I did for 7 years. I got children that were coming out of early intervention and saw the gains from the early intervention, and the 2 years that those children spent in my classroom made all the difference in the world. I understand if the budget doesn't pass that pre-K may be one of the victims of not being able to expand. So I'm here to speak about some of the research and some of my personal feelings about how that might go down. So while all children benefit from pre-K, a lot of disadvantaged children often make the most gains when they have early childhood education. Researchers who study pre-K often find that children have early experience of economic scarcity and insecurity gain more from pre-K than their affluent and advantaged peers. Research has also found that students who participate in quality pre-K opportunities, and I would say that Mount Vernon has a really, really quality pre-K program. They have improved learning, increased their educational success, they're more likely to graduate, they have higher income as adults, they produce long-time reductions in unemployment and crime and out-of-wedlock childbearing. Pre-K can also narrow the achievement gap for disadvantaged children and children of color. Research has shown that children who are considered disadvantaged by the time they're 5 years old, have heard 30 million less words than their advantaged peers. 30 million words. That's a lot of words. The word gap is astounding. Children from poor families are not being read to as much as they should. Their parents are working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and clothing on their back. And what I have to say is a quote from Barack Obama. When a child is deprived of food, there's a public outrage. And this is because child hunger is correctly identified as a moral and economic issue that moves people to action. We believe that the poverty of vocabulary should be discussed with the same passion as child hunger. A child who enters school behind their peers often stays behind. For example, a child who does not recognize the letters of the alphabet when they enter kindergarten demonstrates significantly lower reading skills at the end of first grade. 88% of those children who are poor readers in first grade will still be poor readers by fourth grade. 74% of the children who are poor readers in third grade remain poor readers when they start high school. This is why pre-K is so important. It gives our children a head start on a successful educational journey. And I hope the public realizes that not expanding our pre-K program to all 4-year-olds in Mount Vernon would be a disservice to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Francis Tarrant.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and Superintendent Hamilton. My name is Frances Tarrant, President of CSEA Union. I am here to respectfully ask that tab number 10.8, the appointment of a probationary cleaner, be pulled. This appointment is in violation of our current bargaining agreement with the district. It never was posted as a vacancy. It is against our contract per diem clause that includes longevity as a factor. There are per diem cleaners who have been working for 6 years in anticipation of one day becoming permanent. Mr. Policio has no regards for our collective bargaining agreement. He constantly hires outside contractors to perform duties that exclusively belongs to CSEA. He refuses to have to conduct labor management meetings.
Ms. Tarrant,
Yes.
can you refrain from using names, please?
Excuse me?
Can you refrain from using names?
Yes, okay. The refusal to send verification of negotiated stipends that is listed in the back of our contract. The idea of addressing my concerns and ignoring my request for a meeting is by not answering my emails. One concern that troubled me is the language barrier of a per diem cleaner at Graham School. I mentioned that it is dangerous to the community, the school community, because that person does not speak or understand English. One would say, how did they fill out the district employment application and who interviewed that person? I didn't finish, so that's it. One other thing is that, dealing with CSEA in good faith. There are things that I have to find out from members instead of being told, not that anything could be done about it, but the respect of the union and its members is one of the things that we are lacking at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tarrant.
Thank you.
Dr. Hamilton, you want to answer?
Yes, I'm going to ask Mr. Policio if you would just respond to the posting and the process for the selection of the individual identified on this tab for board information, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Policio. I'm the Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds. Thank you for that, Ms. Tarrant. When I first got here, the past practice was, to my knowledge, is you got a job as a temporary cleaner based on some minor qualifications for cleaning, and you were assigned a building or multiple buildings.
Let me help you be a little more concise. Was the position posted, and what is the selection process for candidates?
Okay, very good, thank you. So the posting position is for an internal switch. We don't post the position to hire a new candidate. We post the position if somebody wants to switch from a current position that they have, so that's the posting. The process for hiring per diem cleaners to a permanent status is, there is no civil service list for cleaners. There is no union representation for cleaners. So what we do is we base their longevity as one factor. We take that into consideration. We take attendance into consideration, their ability to collaborate, their cleaning ability, and the only way, and their ability to take direction from their supervisors. The only way that we can obtain that information is through their buildings and their direct supervisors. So on this particular occasion, back in February, when we decided that we were going to fill a vacant position, when it became clear that we had a vacant position, we sent an email to all the head custodians and the principals saying that we have a vacant position. So please respond to us with your per diem cleaners, because that is one pool that we can draw from to make a permanent position. And I received many responses to that. And so my committee of 5 people, we arduously went through each and every one of them, and we came up with a selection, taking into consideration all of the factors. It is not just how long you have been here. That the way I run my department, with the support of the superintendent, is that we get the best person for the job.
With that said, I'm going to ask the board to consider this tab as presented by administration. It seems that there has been no violation of the negotiated agreement, and if there are provisions provided in that agreement for the association to grieve. But at this time, it is my recommendation that the tab remain on the consent agenda unless a board member chooses to pull it from there, but it is not the administration's recommendation to remove that tab.
Our last speaker this evening is Thomas Keller.
Good evening. Good evening. I want to congratulate the district administration, I don't know if the trustees had anything to do with it, the administration. Enrollment has dropped from almost 9,100 to 8,700. 356, I'm rounding, 91, 87. And it looks like the primary reason for this is that last summer's registration found that 600 students did not live in Mount Vernon. So the bad thing is we paid for them, 16, 17, 18,000, that's property owner's share of the cost of educating a child, and I hope you can duplicate it this summer. And Mr. Zamora brought up the fact that we're paying people overtime and so forth this summer. How about all the non-union people, starting with the superintendent, to come in and do this? This is a very important job. It saves taxpayers money. I don't know if we can do 600 this summer, but any little bit helps. Union contracts. I'm told there are 4 unions up this year. CSEA, teachers, teaching assistants, security. Administrators have 1 more year to run. CSEA, how about keeping the building open till 5 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock? Those are old banker's hours. Teachers, my kids went to Fordham Prep. Teachers had to stay 1/2 hour for extra help for students. How about teachers staying 1/2 hour to help students as part of the new contract? And I don't know what you have built into the budget, but, and that's fine. I don't have to know, nobody has to know, we can't tip our hand. Let's see if we can beat the numbers in the budget so you can create a surplus next year. I don't want a situation a couple of years down the road. There's a certain city council person named Bill, 2009 or 10, and I said, Bill, why is the city budget going up? Contractual obligations. Okay, but you're a member of the Board of Estimate, you're the city council president, together with the controller and the mayor, you approve union contracts. So this is the guy that approved the union contracts and then tells me the budget's going up because of contractual obligations. By the way, he moved out of town in 2009 or 10. You know why? Taxes were too high. What a joke. He lost his job at the Spano administration and didn't run for re-election. You probably know who I'm talking about. Back in the late 90s, when SEPA took over from the ICA, we had people like Lenny Sarva, Ben Consolazio, others, together with CPO, pushing this, Concerned Property Owners, founded by the great Cesar DeFeo, saying we should go K-8. SEPA took over. We didn't hear about it for years. And then it was resurrected in 11-12 when some more reasonable trustees were elected. And it's continued. But it was supposed to be done on a pilot basis, one north side, one south side school. And we'll see how it goes. And if it was successful, it would expand it to other schools. Somewhere along the way, it was expanded to all the schools. And that was the primary reason why we have a $108 million bond issue authorization. I'm sure if we didn't expand K through 8 all at once, we wouldn't have had that. Moving on to the budget, the bond issue. I have a copy of the debt repayments going out, and we've funded 50 of the 108 million. There's another 58 million to be funded, and the state of New York says you can only go out 15 years. The life of these capital expenditures well exceeds 15 years. You get a mortgage on a used house, it's 30 years. And you don't even have to make capital expenditures on it. It's the price of the house. You buy it as is. But anyway, this is a future problem. When that other 58, plus we have 68 of other debt from 2000 to 2001, plus Excel. So down the road, we're going to have cash flow problems. And I see some of the debt is 5% coupon. Junk corporate bonds are 30 years or 5 or 6%. These are short-term, and we have the taxing power of Mount Vernon and state aid. You have to look into that.
Thank you,
Another
Mr.
area of concern.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Keller.
continuing. Don't I have another minute?
That was your additional.
That was the additional.
Eliminate pre-K3. The Mount Vernon taxpayers don't have a responsibility to educate toddlers. This is ridiculous.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Have a good day.
You're putting daycares out of business. All the black churches have daycares.
Please leave the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it?
That concludes public speaking.
Does anybody have any rebuttal?
It's not worth it.
All right, so what are we doing here? Let's go.
Report, Superintendent.
Superintendent's report.
Good evening, all. I have a couple of things I'd like to share with you, but first, we're going to have our presentation from our senior architect, Ken Baviallo, and then I'll be providing my report after that.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Kenneth Baviello, new district architect for Mount Vernon, and I just want to say it's a pleasure and a privilege to be helping this leadership team. I'm now one of 4 Kens involved in the construction project, so feel free to call me New Ken. As you're well aware, we have a lot of work happening currently and as we approach the summer months with new construction and renovations that we're very excited about as we work towards the implementation of the 2020 vision. So you'll see a summary of both active and upcoming work for the summer. As you know, and most visible are Pennington, Graham, and Thornton, as well as work at Mount Vernon High School and IT and security projects that we're doing throughout the district. Currently at SED approvals for upcoming construction, we have the pre-K to 8 renovations at Columbus, Holmes, Lincoln, Parker, and Williams as part of the 2018-2019 implementation. We have the A.B. Davis STEAM conversion, the renovation to Mandela School, New Mandela, and Pennington Fields. We're also doing work here at the Ed Center building, I'm sure you've noticed, with renovations and upgrades, as well as additional work at the high school. So just to try to condense everything that's happening in construction into a slide or two. I'll breeze through the current projects. You're aware of the scope for Pennington additions and alterations, which includes the addition for classrooms, library, cafeteria, and kitchen, as well as interior renovations throughout the building for pre-K to 8, and upgrades to the emergency lighting and fire alarm systems as identified in the BCS. In terms of current status and work, this picture you can see we're taking shape. The masonry walls are going up at the first floor and continuing on the second floor. Floor slabs are poured. We are starting roof framing. We've done mock-ups for the roofing. You can see in the top left photo here is a mock-up of the roofing, and that's actually faux shingles. It's not stone, it's composite material, but you cannot tell it's that accurate to the natural material. Bottom left photo is illustrating the mechanical systems that are being installed currently, both ductwork and plumbing. We also we're planning for the interior renovation component as school ends in June, and we'll be moving forward during the summer. The next slide is just another example. The large shot is the second floor slab and additional steel framing, prepping for masonry walls. There's interior framing partitions being installed and additional plumbing rough-ins for the bathrooms. Next, we have Graham. I'm sure everyone's noticed the lovely park we have. I hear there's a lot of use, which is fantastic. We're also doing upgrades to the main entrance to the building, renovations to stairwells, and again, upgrades to exit and emergency lighting as identified in the BCS. In terms of current work and progress, the playgrounds are completed. The exterior entry work is ongoing with masonry walls and the revisions to the steps and ramp. We have the plaster work and finish work ongoing in the stairwells. And the electrical components are being installed in the library. So here you can see the front entry work, the new site fencing that's installed around the perimeter of the property, and new handrails that are being installed in the stairwells. Next we have Thornton, and this is a really fantastic renovation of the auditorium. This photo was taken a few days ago, and you really start to see how this space is going to come together. There are ongoing plaster renovations happening and electrical and mechanical rough-ins in the space. This building in particular, it's an old building. We've run into existing conditions that have taken longer than expected to get through that component of the work, but at this point we'll be moving full steam ahead now that the demolition components are more or less completed. The next slide, you'll see some examples of the current work status, again in the auditorium, as well in the lower levels where we're renovating bathrooms. The top left photo is showing the prep for a new floor slab. We're also adding ADA capabilities with limited use elevators, which is the bottom left picture, pouring the foundations for those components, and renovations to provide scene shop and black box theater, which is the last picture where they're installing framing currently for the walls and ceiling. Mount Vernon High School. Scope overview, track and field work, the pool, partial roof replacement, upgrades to the kitchen, also the ribbon cutting for Little Hands Courtyard, and work to the dental lab. The pool passed DOH inspection and is now completed. And I heard Dr. Hamilton's already practicing his cannonballs, so that's good use of the pool. Little Hands Courtyard, we recently had a ribbon cutting ceremony this past week, which if anyone attended, that's the photo on the right, was a fantastic event that was organized, and it's really wonderful to see spaces come together and provide these functions for our young students in the district. You'll see we had the band playing there, and there's also a playground to the left that you don't see in that photo. But it's really a wonderful space, so it's another way we could see the 2020 vision coming together. The other two photos are showing the work at the track and fields. The resurfacing procedure is about to start now that the warm weather's broke and we're remobilized with the Phase 1 component. We'll be resurfacing the tennis courts, and the Phase 2 work for the fields is in the process of being bid this month. We just did a pre-bid walkthrough. Pre-K to 8 schools, arguably one of the more critical components of the restructuring. Broken into 2 phases, the 2018 buildings, Columbus, Holmes, Lincoln, Parker, Williams, and 2019 Hamilton and Traphagen. We've also made the adjustment of adding Williams Auditorium and Columbus Auditorium to the 2018-19 work. The Williams will be funded as part of the bond, and pending the budget, will fund Columbus Auditorium. Right now, we've conducted in-building walkthroughs with the district and our consultants. We've identified some means for cost savings, which is great before we enter bidding. And SED is currently reviewing the documents provided by our consultants. An addenda has been provided. We're developing a bidding strategy where we feel it'll be in the best interest of the district to group the projects into 3 and 2, as well as ask for a bid for all 5. What this allows us to do is limit potentially the number of contractors involved in the construction, so it's less that we have to manage overall. And it also will potentially provide the opportunity for some of our local small contractors to pick up a bid by breaking down the overall scope of work, and we're hoping that some of our local contractors will get involved. And again, I won't get into too much repetition. This gets into the breakdown and scope at each school. I'll just touch on Williams. We have a lot of work happening at Williams, both completed and upcoming, including the science room renovations, lighting, alarm systems, the auditorium as mentioned. And we've recently completed upgrades to the stairwells, the playground, and the cafeteria. Currently, we're working on upgrades to the water fountains, and we will be conducting site work renovations at the front entry and parking to help remedy that situation, which, if you've been to Williams, you know it's very tight and congested. We're also working on bathroom renovations, so there's a lot happening at Williams. And again, the 1920 component is Hamilton and Traphagen as part of the pre-K to 8 initiative. To Mandela, which is probably one of our biggest projects. Existing building is a little prickly, so we're taking extra measures in terms of investigating the existing conditions, getting a better handle on those conditions where there's asbestos possibly present, the existing structure, so that as we go into bidding, we can incorporate, or prior to going to bid, we can incorporate that information into the documents to have the most thorough information we can get available to the contractors, and hopefully avoid change orders due to existing unforeseen conditions. The SED review is ongoing. We've provided addenda addressing their comments, and we're currently reviewing our bidding strategy for that. And the photo on the bottom left is an example of some of the investigative demo that was performed recently. A.B. Davis STEAM. This project, in addition to converting the school to a STEAM program, also involves repairs to the building envelope. There's a lot of masonry issues we're going to correct, and new roofing, and that will also allow us to then start the construction of the media center that was demoed recently due to water issues. We just received SED comments yesterday, and the design team is moving forward addressing those comments as fast as possible. And this way we can work towards our bid schedule, which we anticipate to happen this June. And the design and construction team is working hand in hand with us at the district to review logistics for the construction and implementation. And that basically concludes where we're at, and just a rendering of Pennington as, you know, a visual of the vision of 2020. And we're excited moving into the summer. There's a lot happening, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daviello. Any questions from the board on this report?
I had a few questions. Where you ended with Davis, what are the concerns there? I mean, I know we've had some delays, and with the media center, like you said, is that anticipated to still be ready by fall?
So the strategy that we would like to implement is addressing the exterior work first, because we don't want to do an interior renovation and then have the roofing and masonry follow and run into a potential water issue again. So the first thing we'll be jumping on as soon as we get bids out, or bids received, and the contractors on board, is addressing setting up scaffolding, getting the exterior work done. The library will then follow immediately behind that. We're going to start that exterior work at the library to facilitate that work in the fall.
Okay, but I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on Davis in September.
Yes.
Are we confident that we're going to be able to make the transition as planned?
As we know and understand it today, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I noticed in that top picture in Hamilton, there are an awful lot of wires coming from those computers. How are we doing on wireless?
On wireless,
Yeah, on our wireless.
we're working closely with Joe McGrath in the IT department. The direction is to go as wireless as possible. We're doing in-depth reviews of our existing wireless capabilities and how that, and the additions to those wireless capabilities, how that implements into all the projects. So
Any timetable on that, when the wireless system will be in place?
there is an existing wireless system in place. I'm not sure I totally understand the question.
No, because I'm looking at that picture and there are all kinds of wires coming from everything.
Right. As I said, we're working closely with IT, and that's evolving as we develop those specific projects that aren't already in construction, the Phase 1 IT at Graham Pennington Thornton. As we develop the remainder of the IT projects, we're working together to coordinate all that.
I had another question. Can you just remind me, at the Thornton Auditorium, did we decide to replace all those chairs, or are we refinishing them? I can't remember. I know there was a discussion about that last year.
Yeah,
We are doing a full replacement?
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
Okay, I just couldn't remember how we decided that. That's what I
Right.
thought. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ken.
Moving on with the superintendent's report, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate our Performing Arts Magnet School again. The orchestra won the top prize in the Orlando Music Festival in Orlando, Florida on Saturday, April 21st. According to orchestra director Mrs. Thomas, this is the first time in the history of the festival that Mount Vernon participated and won first place. The Arts Magnet Orchestra was also the grand champion of the national competition, so we need to celebrate our students and their leadership for their remarkable placing in this very competitive event. We also had an opportunity this past weekend to be represented in Albany by a team of people for the MBK Symposium on Friday and Saturday. The New York State Department named the inaugural class of the MBK Fellows Program and provided authentic leadership opportunities in government, education, and business. The 36 fellows represented 18 New York school districts who attended the second annual New York State MBK statewide symposium, which was held again in Albany with their mentors. The district was represented by Brother Arthur Muhammad, who I understand did a phenomenal presentation that was very well received and received commentary from the commissioner. The Mount Vernon City School District is proud to announce that Demario Lee Bahi and Juan Franco, 11th grade students at Nellie Thornton, represented the city of Mount Vernon, and the community mentors were Dr. Gabriel Wade and Mount Vernon City School District member Mr. Alan Gonzalez. So the fellows and mentors focused on the goals of the MBK fellows and also on the plan to address racial disparities related to nutrition and health among school-age children. They will seek to respond to leadership in the Mount Vernon community through the New York State MBK Fellowship Work Group and provide a chance to offer input on the creation. So this is a tremendous opportunity for our students to be a part of some groundbreaking work associated with our lead on the MBK initiative. And my understanding is, in talking with my colleagues, even though we were not the first district to accept the challenge, we have made so much more progress than districts who have been involved in the project, and I credit that to the leadership of Brother Arthur Muhammad, along with Shane Brooks from this city. So please join me in giving them a round of applause. And also regarding the budget, we did have the hearing earlier today. On April 17th, the board approved my recommended budget for the 2018-2019 school year, and the budget represents the first tax levy increase in 4 years and is the lowest among the 50 some odd school districts in the area, with a tax levy of only 0.89%. I do want to give you some additional information, however, that on April 24th, the assessor of the city of Mount Vernon advised us that there is an anticipated increase in total assessments for the city of over $152 million. If this holds up, it will result in a reduction in the increase of the average home assessed at $10,378. This means that what we anticipated to be an increase of about $81 a year on the average assessed home will actually only be about $45. So the assessor cautioned us about using this, and it's only an estimate, and those assessments will not close until June 30th. But we are pretty certain that we will see an increase in the assessment, and therefore a decrease in what this proposed increase will represent to the local taxpayer. So while we were anticipating to be around $15 at this juncture per family per month, we're now down to what looks like it may be as low as $45 a year on the average assessed home. And lastly, as you know, we have implemented heightened security protocols throughout the district. And Mr. Vasquez, a probationary teacher, has publicly announced that the Board of Education will be considering my recommendation for his termination this evening. Mr. Vasquez has made a series of unfortunate statements in public on social media outlets, to the press, and to students that has caused sufficient concern on the part of the district. We will continue to take necessary measures to ensure safety of staff and students until we determine that such measures are no longer necessary, and some of these measures will continue indefinitely. And I share this with you publicly because I understand that Mr. Vasquez had audience with News 12 tonight, so I wanted you to hear the statement that I released accordingly. And that concludes the superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. So we'll go to committee reports.
Nothing to report.
Nothing for you. Mr. McCowan, any committee reports for you?
No report, just we have the second reading of the new policies on for tonight. I'll highlight a few points of them, but I'll do that when we do the second reading.
Okay. Dr. Ning?
The outcome of your report, we'll be meeting on May 14th, and we'll be visiting an Avid class out of high school.
Okay. Trustee Williams?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Board, super, everyone at home.
Good evening.
Good evening. So the FACE committee is on overload right now with the current state of our city, with what happened at Robert Fulton.
Williams.
I'm sorry, Robert Fulton. Okay, Edward Williams, and it really has us bothered, with the direction that we're going and what we have to take on in our communities, our community schools. So we need to collaborate. We need to address directly as a community and as a board how we can improve the Edward Williams community. So that's just some thoughts, and I'd like to do maybe a forum or something there in the community, like to just get a radius of who is mostly affected and open up some dialogue with that particular area, particularly to implement this vision successfully there. our toughest obstacle I think we should attack first. So that's one thing. Thank you for sending the letter out to the parents last week with the potential luring of a young girl that took place off of school grounds again, which was near the Graham school community. So, you know, we're going to have to get to that community, the entire community as a whole. There just has to be an urgency right now to open up conversations. I know it's a it's a pretty tough time in the city. You know, everyone's, this is the time where the divisive lines get really big and things like that. However, we're suffering. We're suffering. It's going to take a lot of work. So I just want to put that out there that it has to be a sense of urgency, and I would like to see that fire coming from everyone's eyes in the city, particularly if you have kids, and particularly if you find yourself shopping, or if you live in the city. It's just a really tough time. So I thank you for that letter to the parents. I got the letter and I shared it, had a conversation with my daughter and son, and it's so that I attended the FACE committee attended the resource fair held at A.B. Davis last Saturday. It was pretty well attended. It was really nice. Resource fair, so we had a chance to have our students and families come out at A.B. Davis, and we had a lot of our businesses and agencies come to, pretty much just let everyone know what resources are available. And to be honest with you, there were many resources I didn't know that were available. So I can just imagine, where our families and certain students, kind of fit in with this. It just calls for a ton of more communication. Really good. We had New York Life, doing a community empowerment plan with families. We had the public library that's doing really a lot of good stuff. We got to collaborate with the public library trustees a lot more, I think, and we'll have that discussion. They're doing they do poetry slams. They do yoga for kids. They have a yoga session for kids 6 to 10.
Yeah, my son's done that.
Yeah, is he? Just great stuff that they're doing. The Boys and Girls Club came with summer programs and registration for families to try to be ahead of the game a little bit. The Youth Bureau came from the city, the rec department, and it was good because the kids were informed, families were informed, vibrant energy, just exchange of information that we so desperately need. So that was pretty good. We have the Parent University workshop coming up May 5th, Saturday at 9 to 12. So we're asking parents to also come out. If you haven't made it to a Parent University, we'd really like to see you. There's a lot going on outside of just the...
What location would that be?
At A.B. Davis. A.B. Davis, May 5th, between 9 and 12. Live music, face painting, inflatable rides, food, a ton of information, and just an opportunity to get better. So a lot of really good things going on in the city, and I guess public, let's figure out how to empower these communities and really pull it in, because we can't do it alone. If we don't have the parent involvement, if we don't have the involvement when we step outside of these doors, then we don't have the fuel. We don't have the fuel to actually move forward. And that's a very, very crucial piece, and that's what I'll be championing and trying to move forward. On a personal note, hope this is the right platform or not, but I like to apologize to those affected. Obviously, I'm a newer, right? I've been 11 months here, and still figuring out the learning curves with how to move accordingly. And sometimes you can be a distraction, right? You can be a distraction, knowingly or unknowingly. And that's part of learning. So as I'm learning, I realized that certain things and certain conversations I may have had and, putting out and stuff may have become a distraction, maybe micro distraction, but I want to nip it in the bud. So, it doesn't go any further. I was asked a few weeks ago, I had some conversation, and obviously we talk about city stuff, and I'm in the barbershop having stuff, and we're talking about city government. So we're talking about city council government coming up in about another year and a half. And loosely talking, I'm saying, oh yeah, you should go. Yeah, man, I'm interested. So then, then it was confirmation. Can we confirm that? And me, my youthfulness, and it's, yeah, just confirm it. Right? But, I mean, it's a year and a half down. But after the second or third confirmation, I scratched my head. I said, maybe that's a no-no. Maybe I'm, it's a distraction. Obviously, it was a concern. It didn't seem like it was a concern to me, but obviously I'm learning. So, to the board and to, because we have a lot of work. We got a ton of work. And for me, I'm not interested in sitting in seats without production. So you guys voted me in, the city voted me in to get work done here in my capacity with what I can bring, and that's what I want to focus on. So I want to confirm the rumor that I'm not interested in city council government, so we don't have that conversation moving forward, and we can focus on this 2020 vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Trustee DeRosa?
Sorry, I don't know if you, Yak, or Superintendent, want to give a pitch for Color Purple this weekend?
I actually was going to do that at the end of the committee reports.
Okay. All right.
There will be food distribution this Saturday at 9 a.m.
Where?
At Parker School, sorry.
9 to 12, is it?
9 to 10.
9 to 10. So they got to get there on time, or they?
Yes.
Well, it's gone before 10.
Yeah. Okay. Trustee Torres, any community? Trustee White?
No, thank you, Ken, for doing my presentation.
Yes.
My presentation.
I just wanted to say something about the Education Committee to work that we do, especially regarding the STEM school, because we've had a few people inquiring about reasons why we did not have the entrance exam. And again, this is something that was promised. And the purpose of the entrance exam is not to punish other students, but it is in fact to give a source of motivation to the students of Mount Vernon to change the culture, to know that when they take a test, this year we don't have a test, they applied and they were selected. But I would like us to start preparing for next year, and such type of preparation begins now. Why? Because not only you're going to have to design an entrance exam to the STEM school, but also you have to have materials to help the students prepare for it. So you would see most all 8th grade teachers, math and reading and science teachers, prepare their students toward this type of exam. So what it will do, it will really move up the population, increase their motivation, and then the 7th grade teachers will do the same. Next year is 8th grade. We will be, if you are interested in getting into the STEM school, it's now time for you to prepare. So this type of preparation needs time. We cannot wait. Right now it's too late for this year, and we did not intend to do it this year anyway. However, next year, and I do prefer that at first, let's say we put an exam out that is deemed too hard in a sense for students. Who knows how it is going to be perceived. I'm pretty sure we could find a mechanism to get the number of students and beyond. But the purpose, again, is to change the culture and to seek the excellence that we are looking to get at that STEM school. So again, we are responding to all those inquiries, all those people. This year is the first year. We needed a certain number to get started, but next year we hope, with the proper superintendent and deputy superintendent approval and the board and the teams, the education committee approval, to move, toward that end. Okay, so it's being raised in the community more and more, And, if we are seeking excellence, I believe the model that we had when we foresaw this, when we designed this at the time, was a model such as the specialized high schools, in New York City and in other places, where entrance is going to be on the basis of an exam. So students would need to prepare for those exams. And what it would do, again, with the offering of the algebra regions to 8th grades and perhaps to the living environment, you're really going to see movement going downward, a spiral of going downward in terms of, students' expectation, teachers' expectation, and parents' expectation, wanting to get into those schools. And even if when students prepares, it doesn't get into the STEM school, what the benefits would be, the student is prepared for high school, whichever high school he may end up to. So I just wanted to bring that up. I have it on my notes, to address that in public today. We have not met, last week in order to talk about that. So normally the channel should have been to bring it first to, the education committee. And, but I needed to talk to and respond to those, who inquired about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the community that are asking about the entrance.
Yeah, again, it's to raise the standards. It's to change the mindset, to change the culture. And in order to do that, we need this type of, process to happen.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask something? Maybe this belongs in new business, but since we're talking about committees, I just had a thought that would it make sense for us to try and form 3 subcommittees, one specifically to focus on STEAM issues, one on career services and VOTEC issues, and one on arts issues, to match with the 3 high schools? Because there are elements of restructuring, there's elements of education committee, there's elements of, we got a show this weekend, that's community engagement. But I'm just asking for people's opinions of whether it would be productive for certain of us to be, more focused on one particular aspect so that we can really be an asset to both the community and the administration. Because, education committee, that's K through 12, pre-K through 12, you deal with a lot of issues. But like for me personally, I'm very passionate about the arts. I would love to be more specifically focused on issues of Thornton because that's something that's personally, important to me. But it's just a thought that maybe we should consider.
Well, that's another committee that we should probably talk about.
Well, there is a restructuring committee that looks very specifically at the three high schools. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago where all elements of the 2020 vision, but particularly the 3 high schools, the implementation and the status report on the 3 high schools and the full-day implementation of full-day pre-K was discussed. And I can send that report to, I think I sent it already actually, but I'll double check and send that report to you so that you will have it. But that committee, I know Mrs. Jaros is on that committee, Mr. Zamora is on that committee.
That's at one meeting, right?
We've had 2 meetings. The last one was, I guess, about 3 weeks ago? Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. So that structure is already in place, is essentially what I'm saying.
Right, but we can't all sit on that committee at the same time. I'm just wondering if it would be productive, do you think, to have, subsets of that committee, just to focus on certain aspects of the restructuring, not all of it?
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
All right. Well,
it would still... Okay.
Okay, and lastly, the Special Education Advisory Committee's meeting on May 8th at Rebecca Turner Elementary School. This is Mental Health Month. May is Mental Health Month, so we're going to focus on mental health. We're meeting from 6 to 8 at Rebecca Turner Elementary School. And to reiterate what Mr. Rose says, the food pantry is Saturday at Parker Elementary School in the parking lot. Distribution starts from 9 to 10. Okay, people usually line up early. Okay, so we got to be there early. All right, and that's it for committee reports.
Before you go on, Madam President, I just want to remind the board that this weekend is the opening, Friday night is the opening night for The Color Purple. And the reception begins at 4, and the theme of the reception is Harpo's Jute Joint. So I hope your schedules will allow. The performance begins at 6 o'clock, and on Saturday, there's a 6 o'clock performance, and on Sunday at 3.
Well, I hope they have an encore. I'm not going to be here this weekend.
I know.
But we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so next we are going to, no, there's no minutes right now, so we're going to, a motion to enter into executive session.
What purpose?
For the purpose of discussing, I'm sorry. For the purpose of discussing matters related to special education settlement agreements.
And negotiations.
And negotiations.
Contract, I guess.
Contractual negotiations with the collective bargaining units.
Okay. Motion's on the floor?
I'll second.
Trustee White, Trustee McOwen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Trustee McOwen, Trustee
Opportunity for board members to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Bless you.
Does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda tonight?
9.1?
Do you want to remove it? Do you want to discuss it?
Yeah.
Remove it for
I didn't
discussion?
get a chance to really get,
9.1, authorization to enter an agreement with Laval School for the Blind.
yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Motion for any board members to remove something from the consent agenda, Mr. Russo?
Sorry.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Trustee White,
Second.
Trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay, Trustee Williamson.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't really get a chance to research this agreement with the Lavelle School of the Blind, but it just stood out, and we didn't speak earlier. Sorry about that, but so we're just trying to just get caught up as far as why would we enter an agreement with the School of the Blind?
They provide services for students in our district who are eligible for services provided by the Commission of the Blind.
Okay. Do we?
So that we don't have that service.
Okay.
So we contract out.
It's program services that we don't have that we need
Exactly.
and we bring in. Okay,
Exactly.
all right. We have a large population.
Not a
really,
large,
just
not a
we
large,
have some
but if you
cases.
have one, you have to provide that service.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
So, motion to approve 9.1?
Sure. Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay. Now, those other things that we talked in executive session.
Yep, those
we
are
have-
added to the agenda.
Okay. Okay, so those are all set?
13.2 and 13.1, 2, and 3.
Is there any unfinished business we need to discuss? I'm looking at you, Mr.
Before me?
Yes,
Nothing.
I know you have something.
So tonight we have the second reading of the new business office policies. We did the first reading 2 meetings ago. There were no changes. I'm going to state for the record, Rick, there's a couple of just errors that need fixed. At the top of, can you make a note of this, Rick? Policy 6700. The policy was revised, but the header still says sample policy in the header of those pages, so let's fix that. And in policy 6741, there's a paragraph of one of the NISBA explanation paragraphs that needs removed. These are the policies. It's about 60 pages where I'm going to request the board waive the reading. But these are policies relating to setting the budget, to having protocols in place for expenditures. A lot of these things we've done piecemeal anyway over the last few years, and now it's done in a more systematic way according to NISBA's forms, all in one go. I did have a question for the audit committee. Who's the audit committee? That's you. So have you taken a look at these?
Not in
Okay.
its entirety.
One of the new policies is the audit procedures, and one of the policies, I just want to point you to 6690. Policy 6690 is the audit procedures, and one of the things that NISBA provides and we are accepting is a form or example audit committee like procedure, which is not part of the policy. It's just like fill in the blank, but it's several pages long. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So we are saying in our policy that we're going to adopt a form based on that. So take a look, and once you've had a chance as the committee to fill in the blanks and revise it as you think fit, then just please put that in motion. So I'm just bringing that to your attention.
Thank you.
And that's also with that, I will move that we waive the second reading of this policy, of this set of policies.
Second.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to...
Otherwise, we have to read all 60 pages.
No, we don't want that.
I have a question on
Yes.
this. Are we still engaging in creating a policy for code of conduct for board members, board trustees?
Well, we have,
A clearly delineated written code of conduct?
hang on. Let's finish this motion first and then
Yeah.
talk about that.
Sure.
Mr. McCollum made a motion, seconded by trustee Saunders, to waive the second reading of the policies. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
All right, now I would like to make a motion to adopt the policies
Second.
with the edits that I gave Mr. McCormick.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you.
So in regards to your question about conduct, it's the 1,000 policy is the first section of policies that relate to board, all things about, how our elections work and how our meetings work. We as individual board members are bound by the oath that we took, right, when we accepted this. So that's one thing that we're bound by, and we're bound by, of course, all sorts of different state laws on how we conduct ourselves. The meetings themselves, it's quite vague, and basically the president has the responsibility and authority to keep the meeting in order as he or she sees fit. But there's not anything more specific.
Were we going to try and eliminate some of the vaguities or the vagueness of meeting conduct? Or is that even a possibility?
We could certainly talk about that at a future meeting, and we can invite you and anybody else who has thoughts on that. It's hard to get more specific than just keeping a meeting in order and not being disruptive, because we're also here to vote and to speak our mind and do so in a respectful and productive way, but we all have our say, so.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Any new business? Was that it for unfinished business? Okay, any new business? All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.